Well, first of all, congratulations for being like the head of the firsts club and this list. But first, it's got to be wonderful and stressful.
Well, my mother had many sayings, and one of them she would often say is, Kamala, you may be the first to do many things, make sure you're not the last.
Exactly.
Right, and that's so much of what your work has been also.
That's a lot to
right?
carry
Yeah.
for sure. I'm curious, we're so excited about this list because there's so many of us.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, when you were in your 20s and 30s, did you ever imagine your career after 50?
Nope.
I know. Me
But by that I mean I've never thought of age. And I've never been one to do a 5-year plan. Like literally, I like never. So I haven't ever evaluated myself based on my age. It's been based on a task. Mm-hmm. And that's really how I've kind of lived. I think that, but I will say that I think that there is so much that we still need to do to encourage girls and women of every age to know and internalize their capacity, mm-hmm. and to internalize their strength and their gift, whatever that may be, and to not be burdened
Right.
by other people's limited views of their capacity based on who has historically done what.
Exactly, and pace yourself.
Yeah.
You got a long time. Do what you need to do.
Well, and do what's in front of you well, and the next thing will come. I mean, I mentor a lot of young women, and one of the things that I believe and I say is, figure out what kind of gives you, your brain like a tingle, the thing mm-hmm. that you want to read more, or you want to debate it, the thing that makes you feel something, because you're going to work hard whatever you do. But if you have the luxury, and it is a blessing and a luxury to be able to follow your passion, but if you can follow your passion, do that, and the other things will come.
Mm-hmm. Was there a point in your career where you realized maybe you had a longer runway than you ever thought?
No, I mean, no. I listen. Like I again tell a lot of people I mentor, I eat no for breakfast. Mm-hmm. So have I been told many times during my career things from, oh, you're too young, it's not your turn, they're not ready for you, no one like you has done it before. I've heard all of those things many times over the course of my career, but I didn't listen. And I would encourage anyone who's been told that, whatever their gender, to not listen, because again, don't be encumbered by the inability of others to see the potential of who you are.
I eat no for breakfast. I didn't listen. This sounds very male and successful. That's awesome.
Yeah, but yes. I mean, I just think that it's really important to recognize the limitations that other people have based on their expectations, and to not impose that on oneself.
Well, we get set back by no's, I think. You get a no, and I think some women a lot of them take it really personally. And I love that you eat them for breakfast.
Because here's the thing, because here's the piece of it that is at its core. Who has the authority to tell you who you are? You don't let people tell you who you are. You tell them who you are. That's how I feel about these things.
And that's, I think we have the answer. Minion Moore submitted the nomination for you Forbes 50 over 50 list, and she wrote this: Vice President Harris believes that everyone, no matter what their circumstances in life may bring, deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. Her vision is an America where everyone sees themselves and everyone is included. Mm-hmm. So with so many small businesses, especially run by women, shutting down, brutalized by the pandemic, how do you envision getting access to capital to marginalized entrepreneurs?
I'm so glad you brought that up. So this is one of my areas of focus. I care so deeply about this, which is, one, let's just be clear about where we are. Half of America's workforce works for a small business or owns a small business. Sadly, during the course of the pandemic, 1/3 of our small businesses have closed. Mm-hmm. let's add on to this that if you lift up the economic status of women, you lift up the economic status of families, and all of society benefits. Okay, and then let's talk about women-owned small businesses. Women-owned small businesses range from the child care center to the software company. And what I have seen in my travels is that women-owned small businesses, many of them, like there's these two women who are running a restaurant, one's running a restaurant, one's running a catering business, one's in Colorado, one's in California. And I met with them, they survived during the pandemic, and I said, how did it go in terms of starting out when you had this vision? And both of them said, I heard a word I'd never heard before. I was told I was unbankable. So they went to a bank to start their business, and they were told that they were unbankable, that they basically were not worth the investment. And so what ended up happening is both of them found a way to actually have people who believe in them. And one of the things that we should do more of is invest in community banks called CDFIs, which are in the community and have the ability, because they're in the community, to see the vision of these incredible entrepreneurs. So that's some of the work I'm doing. And I've met community banks, CDFIs. There's a one that's run in South Dakota that's focused on the Native American community there. And the banker, the person who runs the small business, which is a community bank, said, you know, there are Native Americans in the community who have a vision for opening an operation to make quilts, because ceremonial quilts for special occasion, people buy those, they want them, there's a market for it. And they may go to a traditional bank to get the investment. The traditional bank doesn't see the vision, right? But the community bank does. So I'm focused on working with community banks to make sure that women entrepreneurs who have a vision, that they are respected and they can go to a place that they receive dignity, that believes in their vision and invest in it.
And they can be bankable.
And they are bankable.
I'm thinking of the women over 50, especially, who have been forced into early retirement, who don't want to be done, who can't afford to be done.
No, that's right.
What do you say to them, and what can businesses and government do to help these women?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, first of all, there is the whole issue of right to return, right? So to your point, I have spent a great deal of time working with women who work in the hospitality industry, culinary workers, hotel workers, in Las Vegas, for example. And a big issue going on there is that they were laid off during the pandemic because, of course, there's no business. But now they're fighting to get their jobs back. And the older the woman, the more fear she has that she will not be rehired. And so there's a whole push for legislation and for people to support those women's right to be able to return to work. So there has to be a perspective on behalf of every branch of government that recognizes these women lost their jobs through no fault of their own. They should not be penalized for a pandemic they did not create. And they absolutely should not be penalized for their age, because, by the way, they bring experience to the job and they have an investment in the work they've been doing for, in many cases, a couple of decades.
And they've got many decades to go.
Absolutely.
How do you define inclusive capitalism? How do you think it can be, it can address the most pressing issues, especially equality of opportunity, specifically regarding gender, race, and ethnicity, age, and socioeconomic background?
So capitalism in its best form is about the beauty of competition to create the greatest product, to create the greatest outcome. But inherent in that is an assumption that everyone starts out on the same base, and then they compete, and whoever wins, wins. The market, right? The market share. But that's a false assumption when you take into account the fact that not everyone starts from the same place, particularly when we take into account race and gender. So what we have to do is recognize the disparities that have long existed and take that into consideration when we want to encourage competition. And that includes, for example, what I'm doing around women-owned small businesses, minority-owned small businesses, and giving people equal access to compete. That at its core will produce the best outcome for all, for the customer, for society, for our economy, and in the interest of the best of what capitalism should encourage and create.
What's your advice to women in their 20s and 30s who feel like they have to pack it all in, who are stressed, who are like, feel like there's a clock ticking and that there's like a time shelf on their life?
One, continue with your ambition, and don't apologize for it. And continue to believe that you can do whatever you want to do, but also know you have a right to expect things like affordable childcare. You have a right to expect paid family leave when you need to take care of your children or your elderly parents. That you have a right to expect that you will be seen in the full dimension of who you are and your responsibilities, and that they should be supported. These things can coexist. So what I say then, do not accept false choices. That you have to choose either this thing or that thing. That's a false choice. Don't accept it.
And finally, and this is the most important question, I hope everyone's listening. If you're watching Morning Joe,
Yes.
Is it Joe, Willie, or Mika?
It's Mika!
Of course. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Madam Vice President.
It is great to be with you, Mika.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.